I used to believe that life unraveled slowly, like pages turning in a worn-out book. But the truth is, sometimes everything shifts in a single moment, quiet, unannounced, and irreversible. Mine began on an ordinary Thursday morning, the kind where routine felt heavy enough to wear like a second skin. I was stirring the same bitter coffee, glancing at the same kitchen clock, listening to the same small noises of a house that had forgotten how to feel alive. My name is Ethan Miller, and by all outward appearances, I lived a stable life. My wife, Rachel, sat across from me at the kitchen table with her laptop open, already deep into her daily checklist. She was meticulous, disciplined, and relentlessly practical. Our conversations had shrunk to exchanges of information, useful, necessary, but hollow. Even now, she spoke without looking up. "Don't forget Ava's school meeting this afternoon," she said. "I won't," I replied automatically. It was the kind of interaction that revealed more than it said. We weren't fighting. We weren't distant strangers. We were something quieter, two people drifting parallel, never crossing. The central conflict of my life wasn't loud or dramatic, it was internal. A hollow ache, a question I was too afraid to answer. When had I stopped feeling like myself? I didn't know the answer yet, but I felt its weight every day. By the time I reached the office, my mind was already bracing for another tedious meeting. But the moment I stepped inside the conference room, something shifted. She was sitting at the far end of the table, Madison Hale, the newest addition to our creative team. I had only spoken to her briefly before, but today, her presence carried a quiet gravity I couldn't explain. She looked up, offered a soft, patient smile, and said, "Morning, Ethan." It was simple. Ordinary. Yet something in the way she said my name felt different, like she actually cared whether I responded. Throughout the meeting, she asked thoughtful questions, noticed nuances others ignored, and spoke with an honesty that disarmed me. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, she was simply present, deeply engaged. And without meaning to, she brought color into a room I hadn't realized was gray. When the meeting ended, I gathered my notes, ready to leave. But Madison approached and stopped beside me. "You seem overwhelmed," she said gently. It wasn't a guess. It was an observation, one that reached past everything I had pretended to manage. I opened my mouth to reply, but no words came. She didn't push. She simply added, "If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I should have nodded politely and walked away. Instead, I found myself frozen, caught between who I was supposed to be and who I was quietly becoming. As she stepped back, her eyes lingered for a moment too long, curious, understanding, almost concerned. It was the first time in months that someone truly saw me. And it was the moment that set everything in motion. The afternoon sun hovered low over the quiet town of Ridgewater, casting long shadows across the narrow streets where Evan Carter walked with a determined stride. At 27, Evan carried the calm confidence of someone used to solving problems no one else wanted to touch. His work as an independent investigator had shaped him into a man who observed before he acted, and questioned before he accepted any truth. Today, however, even his practiced composure felt strained. He had received a letter that morning, no return address, no signature, only a single message written in a sharp, hurried hand. "You're the only one who can help her. Come before it's too late." The ambiguity gnawed at him. Ridgewater was a peaceful place where crises rarely occurred, and the town's residents trusted one another too deeply to hide such a desperate plea. Yet something in those 8 words felt undeniably urgent. As Evan approached the old train station, a place abandoned for years, he spotted a woman pacing near the rusted entrance. Her posture was tense, and her eyes scanned the surroundings with restless precision. Even from a distance, he sensed her anxiety. When she noticed him, she stepped forward. "Evan Carter?" she asked, her voice trembling despite an effort to appear composed. "Yes," he replied, studying her face for clues. "You sent the letter?" She shook her head quickly. "No. My name is Lena Brooks, and I didn't write anything. But whoever did, they want you involved. And they want you involved because of me." Evan frowned, the first spark of conflict revealing itself. "Why would someone reach out to me on your behalf?" Lena hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Because my sister, Marin, disappeared last week." Everyone keeps telling me she left on her own, but I know she didn't. She wouldn't vanish without a trace, and she definitely wouldn't send that letter. Someone is trying to pull you into this, and I think they know more about her disappearance than I do. A quiet wind whispered through the vacant platform, rustling stray papers and adding to the unease creeping between them. Evan understood the implication. Someone was manipulating the situation, and they were using him to trigger a response. What was Marin involved in? He asked. Lena's expression tightened. Something she didn't tell me. But I found her journal hidden under the floorboards in her room. The last entry mentions a meeting with someone she called the Watcher. She said she finally had evidence, but she didn't say of what. Evan felt a shift inside him, a pull between caution and responsibility. The conflict was no longer distant, it was standing directly in front of him, in Lena's desperate eyes and in the unanswered questions surrounding her sister. He took a slow breath. "Show me the journal," he said. Because whatever Marin had uncovered, it was clear this was only the beginning. Lena led Evan through the narrow streets of Ridgewater, her pace quick and unsteady, as though every second mattered. The tension between them had shifted from uncertainty to a shared urgency. Evan watched her carefully, her clenched jaw, her restless hands, the way she glanced behind her as if expecting someone to emerge from the shadows. Whatever secrets Marin had been chasing, they had clearly begun to touch Lena as well. They reached her family home, a modest, weathered house standing at the edge of a quiet forest. Inside, the air felt heavy, as though the walls themselves carried the weight of unanswered questions. Lena guided him to her sister's room and knelt beside a loose floorboard. She lifted it, revealing a small leather-bound journal, edges worn from tightly held fear and hidden pages. "This is all I found," she said, handing it to Evan. "I haven't read everything. Some of it didn't make sense." Evan opened the journal carefully. The handwriting was tense, slanted, written by someone racing against time. Page after page reflected Marin's growing anxiety, cryptic notes, fragmented thoughts, and repeated mentions of a figure she called the Watcher. The journal described late-night footsteps outside her window, conversations cut short, and a feeling of being observed even in crowded spaces. One entry stood out. "If something happens to me, it won't be an accident. He knows I found the proof. I have only one chance left." Evan felt a chill run down his spine. This was no ordinary disappearance. Marin had been trying to expose something or someone, and now she was gone. "Did she tell you anything? Anything at all before she disappeared?" Evan asked. Lena hesitated, then nodded. 2 nights before she vanished, she said she was close to uncovering the truth about a man who pretends to protect this town. She didn't say his name. She just said he wasn't who he claimed to be. Evan closed the journal slowly. A man posing as a protector. A watcher lurking in the shadows. A hidden truth someone was desperate to keep buried. The conflict was deepening, stretching beyond a missing person and into something far more dangerous. Before he could respond, a sharp knock echoed through the house. Lena stiffened. "I'm not expecting anyone." Evan motioned for her to stay back as he stepped quietly toward the front door. The knock came again, heavier this time, urgent yet controlled. He opened the door only a fraction. A man stood on the porch, dressed in a dark coat, eyes sharp and unreadable. "Good afternoon," he said calmly. "I'm looking for Lena Brooks. There are some questions regarding her sister's case that require her immediate attention." Evan didn't move. Something about the man's tone, too steady, too rehearsed, set off every internal alarm. "Who exactly are you?" Evan asked. The man smiled slightly, though the expression never reached his eyes. "Just someone trying to keep this town safe." The words struck with eerie familiarity, and Evan realized, with a quiet jolt, that the conflict they feared had come straight to their door. Evan's eyes narrowed as the man on the porch remained perfectly still, a shadow stretching across his angular features. There was a deliberate calm about him, the kind that belonged to someone who had rehearsed this moment, measured each word, and calculated the effect of every glance. His presence alone shifted the tension in the room, transforming it into something sharper, almost electric. "I said, who are you?" Evan repeated, his voice steady despite the rapid thrum of his heartbeat. The man tilted his head slightly. You can call me Graham. I'm responsible for certain investigations in Ridgewater. But I prefer discretion. Evan sensed the danger immediately. There was no kindness in Graham's eyes, only control. And in that control lay a threat. Lena stepped forward, her voice shaking yet defiant. He doesn't need to be involved. This isn't his business. Graham's gaze shifted briefly to her, then back to Evan. On the contrary, he said softly, almost conversationally, I'm here because this case has consequences that extend far beyond what you two realize. Your sister's disappearance is not an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern, a warning to anyone who looks too closely. Evan clenched his jaw. Pattern. Warning. The words confirmed what he had suspected from the moment he read Marin's journal. This wasn't simply about a missing person. Someone powerful was orchestrating events behind the scenes, keeping a web of secrets meticulously hidden. I don't care about your warnings, Evan said, his voice low but firm. I care about finding my sister and keeping Lena safe. A faint smile flickered across Graham's face, almost imperceptible. Noble, but naive. People in Ridgewater have learned the hard way that curiosity can be dangerous. The quiet in the room felt heavy, suffocating, as if every shadow in the corners had grown darker. Lena shivered and looked at Evan, her trust unspoken but complete. He could feel the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders. The journal had been a doorway. Now, the moment to act had arrived. Graham's attention shifted to Lena again. Your sister stumbled onto something she wasn't meant to see. Evidence that could destabilize far more than just one family. If you intend to pursue this, you must understand the stakes. Evan stepped forward, blocking Lena from Graham's subtle intimidation. I understand. And we won't back down. Not now. Not ever. For a moment, the tension remained, unbroken, almost unbearable. Graham's eyes lingered on both of them, measuring, calculating, almost impressed despite the stern mask he wore. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving the quiet to settle like dust across the empty rooms. The moment his presence faded, Lena exhaled slowly. That was unsettling, she whispered. Evan nodded, holding the journal tighter in his hands. He didn't scare me. He just confirmed what I already suspected. And in that instant, the real scope of their mission became painfully clear. The disappearance was not random. The danger was intentional. And the closer they got to the truth, the more carefully they would have to move. Because someone was watching, always watching, and they were already one step ahead. Night had fallen over Ridgewater, but the darkness did little to hide the unease settling into every corner of Evan's thoughts. He and Lena sat in her dimly lit living room, the journal open between them, each page a roadmap into Marin's final days. The entries had grown increasingly frantic, the writing jagged and desperate, revealing a mind racing against invisible forces. Every word, every note, now felt like a clue leading them straight into danger. She was close, Evan, Lena said, voice trembling. I can feel it. She knew something big, something someone didn't want anyone to find. Evan nodded, tracing a finger along the edge of the journal. And Graham? His part of it. Or at least, he knows more than he's letting on. He's testing us, seeing how far we'll go. Lena swallowed hard. I don't want to lose her too, and I don't want to lose you either. The weight of her words pressed against him. Protecting Lena was no longer optional, it had become personal. Every moment they delayed could mean a step closer to irreversible consequences. The stakes were no longer abstract, they were life and death. A sudden sound at the window snapped them both upright. Rain tapped rhythmically against the glass, but there was something else, a movement, a shadow. Evan's instincts, honed from years of investigation, took over. He moved silently, positioning himself between Lena and the window. Stay back, he whispered. The shadow shifted, then a familiar voice called softly, almost pleading, Evan, it's me. Marin. Heart pounding, Evan bolted to the door, yanking it open against the wind. There she was, disheveled, eyes wide with fear and urgency. Her journal, the one Lena had been reading, clutched tightly in her hands. I didn't have time to explain everything, she said, voice quivering. They're watching me, watching all of us. But I found the proof. I left clues. You just have to follow them carefully. Evan's mind raced, but he maintained focus. Who is watching? Who's behind this? Marin hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if the shadows themselves were listening. Graham. He's not who he claims to be. The man you met today, he's the reason I disappeared. And he's the reason I can't be seen openly. He controls everything here, every investigation, every rumor, every official record. No one suspects him, and no one dares oppose him. Except me. Except you. Lena reached for Marin's hand, and for a brief moment, the three of them shared a fragile connection, a shared understanding that the danger was real, the stakes undeniable, and the mission impossible without trust. Evan's jaw tightened. Then we do this together. Carefully. Step by step. No mistakes. Marin nodded, her expression a mixture of fear and determination. I left notes in places only the three of us would know. Follow them. It's the only way to stay ahead. For a heartbeat, silence filled the night, punctuated only by the rain and the distant hum of Ridgewater's quiet streets. The enormity of the truth pressed down on them all. The enemy wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows. It was someone wielding control under the guise of safety, a hidden hand manipulating the town. And yet, for the first time in weeks, Evan felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel: clarity. Purpose. The hunt had begun. The following days were a careful dance between shadow and light. Evan, Lena, and Marin moved quietly, leaving no trace, speaking in whispers, and following the hidden clues Marin had left behind. Each discovery revealed fragments of a truth more unsettling than any of them had anticipated. Ridgewater, the town they thought safe, had layers of deception buried beneath its calm exterior. Graham had constructed a web of influence so meticulous that even local authorities seemed complicit, unaware, or simply too intimidated to intervene. But in the midst of fear, a sense of unity emerged. Evan watched Lena navigate the tension with courage that belied her quiet demeanor, and he realized that the emotional bond they shared, born from necessity, trust, and mutual vulnerability, was as vital to survival as strategy itself. Marin, though still shaken, demonstrated a resilience that reminded Evan why he had devoted himself to uncovering the truth in the first place. Every journal entry, every coded note, every hidden message reinforced a single, undeniable fact: the only way to confront the danger was together. The final confrontation with Graham was a silent affair, not violent, but suffused with tension. Their careful planning had ensured the evidence of his manipulations was irrefutable. Evan, standing alongside Lena and Marin, felt a quiet vindication as the man who had cast shadows over their lives could no longer manipulate the narrative. Graham's composure cracked slightly, revealing the control beneath which he had operated for years. In that moment, the truth, painful, complex, and necessary, was exposed. Afterward, the town seemed unchanged, yet everything felt different. Ridgewater was still quiet, still orderly, but the three of them had altered something intangible: their perception of what it meant to see clearly, to act courageously, and to protect those who mattered. For Evan, the experience reshaped his understanding of loyalty and responsibility. Lena's courage deepened his respect, while Marin's fortitude reminded him that fear was never a reason to surrender. That evening, they sat together in Marin's living room, the journal now safely tucked away. Silence stretched comfortably between them, punctuated only by the occasional sigh or the faint rustle of the wind outside. No words were needed, each understood the significance of the journey they had endured. Evan reflected on the transformation within himself, the shift from a man constrained by routine and safety to someone fully alive to consequence, choice, and moral clarity. The experience had tested boundaries, revealed hidden strengths, and illuminated the dangers of passivity. He realized that life stability is only meaningful when coupled with courage, curiosity, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths. Whatever happens next, Lena said softly, we'll face it together. Evan nodded, a small, knowing smile forming. Together. And in that moment, he understood that survival was only part of the journey. The deeper victory was emotional, reclaiming agency, trust, and the profound realization that even in the shadows, people could choose light, honesty, and connection. As the night deepened and Ridgewater slept, Evan felt an unusual calm. The danger had passed, but the lessons remained etched in memory, in friendship, and in the quiet certainty that truth, no matter how delayed or obscured, had a way of revealing itself to those willing to follow it.